residential plots. I just wanted to, draw your attention to that. How can RWAs be empowered to stop these such residents from doing such arbitrary work? Thank you so much.
ಆತ್ಮೀಯರೇ, ಕ್ಷಮಿಸಿ, ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಇಡೀ ವಿಶ್ವದಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿಯನ್ನೇ ನಂಬರ್ 1 ತಂದಿರುವಂಥ, ಇಡೀ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರವನ್ನೇ ಇಡೀ ವಿಶ್ವವನ್ನು ಕಣ್ಣೆತ್ತಿ ನೋಡಿರುವಂಥ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕವನ್ನು ಪ್ರತಿನಿಧಿಸಿದಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೃದಯಾಂತರದಿಂದ ನಾವು ಈ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದವನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತೇವೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಈ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಸುಧಾಕರ್ ಸರ್ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಯಾವ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತೋ ಏನೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸ್ವತಃ 2 ಸರ್ತಿ 3 ಸರ್ತಿ ಕರೋನಾ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ಸಹ ಅದನ್ನು ಇದು ಮಾಡಲಾರ್ದೇ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೆ ಎಂಥ ಅದ್ಭುತವಾದಂಥ ಸುಂದರವಾದಂಥ ಕಲ್ಪನೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಂಥ 2 ಮಹಾರ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶ ಇನ್ನೇನೂ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಮೇಡಮ್, ನಂದು ಎರಡಿದೆ. ಒಂದು, ನಾನು ಹಳ್ಳಿ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ಲಿಂದ ಬೀದರ್ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಏನಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಇವ್ರದ್ದೊಂದು ಅಬ್ದುಲ್ ಕಲಾಮ್ದೊಂದು ಇದಿತ್ತು, ಪುರಾನ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಅರ್ಬನ್ ಅಮ್ಯುನಿಟೀಸ್ ಇನ್ ರೂರಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಬ್ಯಾಪ್ನವ್ರು ಏನು ಪಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಈ ಹಳ್ಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಗುವಂಥ ಅತ್ಯುನ್ನತ ಸಿರಿಧಾನ್ಯಗಳು, ಸಾವಯವ ಕೃಷಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಗ್ರಾಮೀಣ ಆಟ ಪೀಠಿಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಅರ್ಬನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಈ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಅಳವಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಏನಾದರೂ ಉತ್ತೇಜನ ಕೊಡುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಮೇಡಮ್. ಅದೊಂದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ವಿನಂತಿ ನಂದು. ಇನ್ನು ಎರಡನೇ ವಿನಂತಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ನಾವು ಈ ಆರೋಗ್ಯ ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅತಿಯಾದಂಥ ಆ್ಯಂಟಿಬಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಯೂಸ್, ಅತಿಯಾದಂಥ ಇದರದ್ದು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಲ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಚೆಕಪ್ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಕೊಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಮ್ಮ ಎಂಟೈರ್ ಗಳಿಸಿರೋ ಹಣ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರೀ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ಗೆ ಕೊಡುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅದ್ಭುತವಾಗಿ ಆಯುಷ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೋಲಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ಸ್, ಅಲೋಪತಿಕ್, ಹೋಮಿಯೋಪತಿಕ್, ಯುನಾನಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು DM ಹೆಗ್ಡೆ ಮಾಡೆಲ್ ಥರ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆನ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ತಾವು ಒದಗಿಸುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಥಳನೂ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ವೈದ್ಯರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ಸವಲತ್ತುಗಳು ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಅದನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಯಾರಿಟೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಪದೇ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋದು, ಮಾನಿಟರ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗೋದು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅನೇಕ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳು ಅನುಭವಿಸದೆ ಸುಂದರವಾದ ಒಂದು ಸಹಜವಾದಂಥ ಬದುಕನ್ನು ನಾವು ನಗರದಲ್ಲಿ ಬದುಕುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಗೆ ಈ ತಾವುಗಳು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಹೃದಯಾಂತರದಿಂದ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊತೀನಿ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಮೇಡಮ್.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, madam. I am President of All India Taxpayers Association. My question is, government collect tax, but government will not pay any pension to the taxpayers. My first request is, those who are paying taxes should be secure. The government should provide security for those people. That is, let us suppose a person starts paying tax at the age of 25. He pays at the age of up to the 60 years. Whatever the proportionate of taxes that has been paid, in pro rata to the tax paid, government should start paying pension till his demise. Upon demise, whatever the pension that is payable to the demised person should not be transferred to any of the kith and kin. That should be transferred to the general revenue of the government alone. And secondly, after the age of 60, there will be a close relationship between the illness and the age. So in some cases, government children will not take care of them. For example, 3 days before, one newspaper announcement has come. A person was there, he was living with his wife, 2 children, he was living with his second son died, and daughter-in-law threw them out. Then they came to the first son, they also did the same thing. They have written a death note stating that what are all the anomalies that has faced, accordingly consumed poison and died. If that person pension should have been paid, then automatically those people should have been leaved. But government is taking one way. Government is collecting taxes only, but in no way they are protecting the interest of the taxpayer. That should be taken care of by the government till the person who is paying the taxes. And secondly, what is going on? For example, I have pen in my pocket, I can throw it, but I cannot take pen from his pocket and throw it. The reason why that I am quoting the example is, see, the taxpayers' money is being used for distribution of freebies by these political parties. With the result, taxes are being increased time and again. On the other hand, poverty will also increase. Taxes are more. The the living rate will become more. This should not happen. In fact, once I have been interviewed with the bank about the fixed deposit scheme. I said, after the retirement, the person will keep the money in fixed deposit to see that at least something will help for his revenue.
Sir,
What the government is doing.
Please be brief.
Pardon me?
Brief, brief,
sorry.
brief, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank
I think this is coming under the income tax net. Better I say, request you, madam, please consider to provide the social security to the taxpayer first and to avoid freebies.
I am P.C. Rao, Chairman, Labour Committee of KCCI. I have one straight 86,000 crores unpaid amount is there in ESA. Recently, we got the news that that amount will be used, going to invest in the stock market. I don't know how safe it is. If you use it,
I don't know where you got this news from. I don't know.
it has come in the paper.
No, it may have come in the papers. I don't know anything about it.
Okay, but it can be used for the employees.
I
IT
don't know anything
personnel.
about it, is what I'm saying.
Second, can there be a more investment on the tourism, madam? Tourism is the part which is more important for every country. We have lesser investment, lesser promotion activities in tourism, madam. That is my request.
It's one major part of this year's budget.
Hello, good evening, ma'am. Hello. Good evening, ma'am. It's very nice to meet you here. Pleasure with our Health Minister Sudhakar sir. Ma'am, I like the initiatives by Narendra Modi ji from the past 15 years. We respect Bharatiya Janata Party. Ma'am, but the main concern is commute to local buses and metro. The main thing is we have pathholes in our area. When it's raining, it's difficult to commute in pathholes after raining. After coming to our office, it is difficult to reach home on time. So I request, they committed to BBMP also, but they didn't listen to our words. So I request you that the pathholes will be removed so that we can commute easily to office.
All right, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir. So unfortunately, few of the complexes in Bangalore still work under the old scheme called share scheme, which is not a freehold property, which is really a big loss for exchequer for the government, because the one complex which I am representing is got almost 1,000 houses, where instead of it's not a freehold property, it's in the form of share. So wherein the government, in case they register the entire property, each flat would fetch in a revenue of around 10 to 12 lakhs in terms of stamp duty. And on top of that, a promoter still being in the loop, still he's got a lot of his antics and he's been harassing the occupants. So we are termed as a tenants rather than as owners, in spite of paying through our noses. This, I guess, were only few complexes in Bangalore are there, probably these were a few in Mumbai too. But this is not a good scheme, of course not promoted by the BJP government. Maybe the previous governments have done it on an experimental basis. Can this be corrected, ma'am? Will be a lot of relief to the residents.
Good evening. Dear Finance Minister, my name is Binu Wilson. I just have 2 points here. Point number 1, even though our country had made huge progress in digitalization, we home buyers feel that we are a minority because the Zamindar system still exists. In my apartment, the builder has mortgaged the land to a financial institution and he has done a sale deed registration. Now we are in trouble whether he is paying the interest or not, and we are not sure whether these companies will send us a notice. So I request the finance minister to get some law. I don't know, I'm just as a layman term I'm speaking. And the second point is the money laundering activities which is happening within the apartment under the cover of Karnataka Societies 1960 Act, which is not supposed to raise even maintenance, but builders and association people who have colluded with the builder is using to complete the project. And in my case, I stood up for my rights and they have disconnected my power water. I went to police station. Police did not help me. Finally, I went till the commissioner. I did not get any because it's a civil matter. Finally, I had to go to the court to get the injunction order. So these are the things happening. So I don't know. I'm just raising my request here. If you can take it up with the respective authorities. Thank you, Minister.
Good evening, madam.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Very thank you for coming over here to listen to us. There are only myself, Subramanya, a chartered accountant. I have a couple of points. Number one is on the employability. I understand, considering the size of our country and the population, employability is something that is a continuous thing to be addressed and dealt with. My thought, having worked with few chartered accountants and students, my only thought here is that the government can consider forming an entity which has a participation from major employers from diverse fields, science, commerce and all the fields, and have the thought leaders in it, influencers, professional associations like Karnataka State Chartered Accountants Association, whom I represent, and this association will conceptualize and come up with a training course which will basically help the students bridge between their education and employability. Now, also being a chartered accountant practicing, I understand I should minimum take 8 to 9 months for a BCom graduate to be trained so that he can be in a particular deliverable position. So considering this, if this gap between education and employment can be bridged, then it will be a great thing for the young students who are from the colleges and who can take it up. This is first thing. Second thing is on the financial literacy. So I'm from a smaller town, Chikbalapur, where our Sudhakar sir is the person representing us. So basically what I see here is there is people go pray for these schemes and other things and they don't know where to invest. So for a large crowd of middle income class group who are not from a very well educated background but doing business per se, they need some financial literacy. So also consider something on creating some financial literacy, and so that they don't fall prey for few schemes. I know RBI is working on various things, but yes, more to the grassroots level, there is a requirement of something to come up to help to give real benefit to these traders. Last but not the least, I am sure everyone of here agree that when you go to a registration in a stamp, in a registrar office, we come back with a slightly bad experience for the reason that we have to sit there for 2 to 3 hours, and there is something which someone has to really spend to ensure that the things go on time. So everything, we are moving towards digitalization. It is certainly possible for the government to consider to start introducing technology into the registration process with things being in place, Aadhaar and biometrics and things. Probably that is something that the government should certainly consider to make it a really nice experience for, that is really something which anyone will feel for having bought a property. That is something which I would like to bring it to your notice. Thank you.
Madam, this is Ravi Shankar from, I'm a member of BVSS, Bharatiya Vidya Salakar Samiti. I have a couple of suggestions concerning the agriculture sector. This is for farmers essentially. Agriculture sector in India is plagued historically by structural predicaments and moonshot problems for various reasons. States have to do their job, central government is doing its job, etc., etc. But I feel, since you are representing the Ministry of Finance, I believe at the confluence of the art of organizing farmers and the science of farming, a lot of solutions are there. For example, now recently we have a Ministry of Cooperation of Cooperatives. The Honorable Home Minister is holding the charge. There's Minister of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Then we have a lot of initiatives under Startup India. I believe time is ripe for policy shift, especially as the Ministry of Finance is a common thread which will link the Ministry of Cooperation. This is how you organize farmers. Ministry of Agriculture, which is in charge of ICAR and all the R&D, etc., policy initiatives, and the startup initiative in India. If Ministry of Finance can sew a thread among all of these three and come up with specific initiatives which will link agri-tech startups, for example, with FPOs, FPCs, cooperatives and collectives, I believe this can go in a long way to help smallholders, millions of smallholders in India. Thank you, madam.
Good evening, madam. I am a home buyer and I come from an apartment.
Keep it close, keep it close.
Yeah, my name is Abhijit. I come from an apartment. I'm a home buyer. So I have an issue actually when we have some issue and some grievance, when we take it up with the concerned department, there is no action taken. Most of the departments are not coordinating with each other. Like there are various departments for an apartment. There are Pollution Control Board, BBMP, BESCOM, and so many other departments. There is no proper coordination among the departments. And for an OC, there are various clearances required from different departments until an OC is issued. So, and when there is a grievance raised by a home buyer, it is not addressed, it is only limited to issuing notices. There are no further action taken, and it goes on for years together. The home buyers are forced to take it up the matter with the court. And so I would really request that there should be some kind of a proper coordination, and there should be some general guidance or directions from the government to the various departments, because departments are equally empowered. There is no need for a home buyer to reach to the court, because which is very expensive. So departments should on their own take action, and there should be vigilance. So I would really request that this issue is taken care of, so that people are not forced to take matters to the court. And at the department level only matters are sorted.
Yeah. For a change, I think being at 63 years of age, as a citizen of this India, we have been living because of the greatest contribution by our Prime Minister of India in allowing and trust having posed an Indian company to produce vaccination. I think we all should agree that we got a real life. The life for the next remaining life has been given by Prime Minister of India. That's very positive, madam. And as being Chadakund, I've been seen that several countries have gone for bankrupt. Being a woman, struggle and seen the challenges. We brought the entire economy back to fifth largest economy. Very happy. I've been paying taxes, but I'm not asking. But being in civic and health and this one, many Ayushman Bharat been covered the below poverty line. I've also been connected to several hospitals. I've been also in the social organizations. Now of late, the middle class is not afford to get the medical facilities. Prime Minister of India recently has been dedicated one free medical college, free medical hospital under our Sudhakar Sir Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai. When we collect 33 lakh crores, why can't we just, Government of India can think of providing the free medical treatment for entire citizens of this country? When a Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai can provide the medical college free of seat, cost and free medical treatment, why not Government of India with every state? I think we are very happy that Ayushman Bharat, if you bring for middle class, we appreciate our madam efforts of day and night. I think the country is safe hands. The remaining life, I think we should not expect anything. We should contribute for the nation development. Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am. I am Ashok Srivastav from Hyderabad. I am a retired managerial executive and a writer from Hyderabad. I had been executive member in RA of my colony at Hyderabad for 2 years. My suggestion is that there should be an apex body for all RAs of any cosmopolitan cities to monitor and control over activities of different RA working in the city. Because every RA handles lakhs of money given by residents as maintenance. And there are so many complaints of misuses of this sort of money. That's my thanks for your consideration and so kind of you for your.
Madam, I am Sanjay. I am requesting the tax on resale of the flats, because every time we make the same percentage of tax, even though irrespective of the age of the building. I request for the resale of the flat, the tax should be reduced, sir, madam.
It's not weighted to the inflation?
No, madam. See,
the tax is not weighted to inflation? The additional value that you realize is weighted to inflation before it is taxed. There are quite a few tax auditors here. They'll be able to tell you, tax consultants. So every time you sell, it is weighed on to the number of years the flat has remained as a property, and also in that set of years, the inflation rates, they are all, reconciled to that fact. So it's not a blind tax.
I agree, madam.
The age and the inflation are indexed.
But actually, when we see, when we buy or sell, no, the tax rate looks on the higher side, because
tax always looks painful. I agree with you. I agree.
Namaste to Honorable Health Minister, and Vanakkam to Honorable Finance Minister. I want to raise, I'm Swaminathan, a chartered accountant who have come back to India after working abroad for a number of years. See, I want to raise an issue which has been ignored by state and central governments for the past 70 years. And it is touching upon every aspect of the economy, individual livelihood, and productivity, so many other things. That is traffic problem in the country. How it affects is FDI gets affected, loss of livelihood because of death, and the economy gets affected because of huge amounts of foreign outflow due to imported oil, wastage of fuel, and civic problems, rage, so many other things. So both the central government and the state government should work up, take this issue seriously, because it involves direct affecting of so many aspects of, like Make in India. A lot of foreign companies don't come because they see the traffic and run away. FDI gets affected. Millions and millions of dollars can be saved by way of savings in fuel, because what we do in 3 hours abroad, here it takes 8 hours of running. Imagine the loss that goes into the fuel that is being burnt unnecessarily. And its direct impact will be, I have not calculated it, but it will be in terms of tens of thousands of crores on a yearly basis, if you calculate the millions and millions of vehicles that are plying the country every day. Thank you.
Now, last question. We have run out of time. If you want to hear remarks from the Honorable Finance Minister, we'll have to end after this last question.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir. I am a secretary of the RWA, Tata New Haven in Tumkur Road. I am also a member of Consortium Apartment Association, Yeshwantpur. Many of our friends from RWAs have already raised a lot of issues, and a lot of clarity which are supposed to come in has come. I have only one request to the state government of Karnataka. For registration of RWA, there are 3 ways in means we have to register. One is the deed of declaration and bylaws. There is a clarity has to be given by the state government. Deed of declaration and bylaws has to be registered by so-and-so act, like a KAOA 1972. And then the second comes the deed of conveyance of the common area land. It has to be done through the act, the specific act to be given. And the third point, when we are registering the RWA, there are a lot of confusion whether the RWA has to be registered under KAOA 1972, or it has to be registered under KAOA 1960, or it has to be registered under KSCA 1959. Though there are a lot of verdicts which was there in the past, and also the court cases have been given a verdict clearly which has to be registered. Whenever we go as a common man, as a representative of association to register, we will take a legal opinion from the legal bodies. The legal bodies, they give the opinion, you register under 1960, or you register under 1959, or you register under 1972, like that. A lot of confusions are there. Because of that, the builders are taking the association for the ride. We wanted the state government to specifically mention that deed of conveyance has to be done in so-and-so act, deed of declaration and bylaws has to be registered under so-and-so act, and association has to be formed and registered under so-and-so act, like that. That is a request, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Radhakrishna Adiga from Bengaluru. I have 2 issues. One is automobile industry is lifetime tax is made 15 years. None of them keep the vehicles for more than 15 years or whatever. So you can reduce the lifetime tax to at least the life of the vehicle by 10 years and reduce the cost of the vehicle so much people can also bear. And even the ecosystem will be very good. The dust and other thing all be reduced. Second question is, as a hotelier, we are facing lot of problems with the 10 rupees coin. So we have been requesting with the Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank has no solution at all. All the bank currency is of crores and crores of rupees of 10 rupees coins. Whereas every day we have a problem with the public fighting for not accepting the 10 rupees coin. This is for almost 15 years we have been facing. Please look into this and help us to do the new decision.
Thank you all for the wonderful suggestions and questions. Sir, whatever after the event you can.
Regarding tourism policy, Madam had raised, one aspect which I escaped tourism policy makers and hospitality industries, education tourism.
Hello.
Excursions, whether it is botanical excursions, wild
infrastructure for students, affordable, staying facilities, food facilities. Only Tamil Nadu, Kodaikanal and Ooty, they have had such a tradition right from these days. But next time when you are going to modify the tourism policy, please pay attention to promoting educational tourism.
Okay. Sir, thank you. That's it, sir. Sir,
Hello, sir. My name is Dr. Gurunath, highly respected authorities on the dais and before the dais. My only one simple question is clarification regarding this. Delivering the justice to the DRT and DRAT is causing lot of defects. At the same time, delay. It is causing unnecessary financial burden to the all NP account holders. When the role of the both advocates is over, there is no reason to pending there whatsoever is given. Just for 5 crore rupees for 3 months, it costs 18 lakhs rupees additional interest. Hope some mechanism should be altered so that justice can be delivered without harming the financial position of the parties. Thank you very much. Sorry for.
thank you. Thank you everyone for your suggestions. Now, without any further ado, we would like to please invite the Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, to deliver her remarks. Slight change. We would like to invite the Honorable Health Minister, Dr. Sudhakar ji, to deliver the presidential remarks. After this, okay, ma'am will talk, please.
Good evening, and thank you very much for this very candid discussion, not so much discussion, candid putting across of your views. I can see that there is a widespread concern because there isn't much different between one resident welfare association and the other who spoke on issues bothering them. So I can see a widespread concern about very critical issues relating to housing, particularly in multi-storied kind of a facility. And they relate to very substantial issues of ownership, of how much you can invoke the ownership, and who invokes it at what point, and how are the liabilities transferred from the builder who's in between the landowner and the buyers of the apartments. So these are not small issues at all. And if it is so widespread, it means it is across the board. It's not as if one buyer or one seller or one builder who's a rogue builder who's done something wrong, but largely these are issues prevailing like gray areas where people who are smarter game it for their advantage and leave the rest of them high and dry. So I'm sure Dr. Sudhakar will be listening to all this, and at the state level there can be certain steps taken to redress these grievances, which are legitimate grievances of individual home buyers, for which of course I'm not the person to sit and work on it, but I certainly will convey this worry which I've heard today across, because there was a time when in Mumbai, when apartments were growing at a very fast pace, these issues used to dominate. But I guess the Maharashtra government, over the period of several years, have little by little and incrementally addressed these issues, that largely apartment buyers don't suffer these fundamental problems which have been voiced here. So I'll assure you that I can certainly convey the angst that exists here and hope that some work can be done by the state government. But at this point we are only listening to you especially with an election. It's not for me to give you a word or give you any promise. It is going to have to be gone through by the state units. But from the essence of what you said, anything from our side, from the Government of India, I'll go back to see if I can sit with the Urban Development Ministry, and in the light of what I've heard in Bengaluru, see if there are things that central government will have to do. But there are largely state governments which have to do. But I will sit with the Urban Development Ministry and see if there are any legislative or legal or rules-driven reforms that we can do, so that all citizens of India, not just relating to one state, can benefit from this experience that I've heard here in the city. I randomly recollect the issues other than the resident welfare, about how there should be more financial literacy and awareness to be built, and a cursory reference was made to the RBI. RBI is doing extensive financial awareness business, and for people who are staying in far-flung areas where RBI may not be physically present, the National Securities Depositories Center, the one which is holding all stock market basic data and so on, they have also wonderful digital financial literacy programs, which is available for anyone who wants to know what it is. It is graded gradually. You can move from one to another. So, in fact, I was surprised to hear it from a chartered accountant. I would have thought, and that itself raises a question to me, which I need to go and search for answers. If a chartered accountant tells me that financial literacy has to be built, more awareness has to be brought in, and these are the sources which are, only the RBI was referred to, the other things have not been mentioned, it tells me that there is a gap between those who are doing it and even a chartered accountant, who I would have thought will be the first source of contact for anyone to go and say, will you please tell me about how I need to know about my finances? Would you please educate me? And the chartered accountant can say, I can, but I'm professionally tied up, but I can suggest 2 different places from where you can do online courses. So I would tell the RBI, and I would tell the Indian Chartered Accountants Institute also to first of all tell their own members, the various institutions which are promoting financial literacy, and have chartered accountants, much before they get their certification, to recite a list of those institutions which are giving financial literacy, or else they don't get certified. I just find it extremely difficult to gulp this. I find it extremely difficult. You're trained as a chartered accountant and given a certificate to bring in literacy as well as certify authentic accounts. And I don't blame the gentleman who raised that issue, but if that's the case, I fear for chartered accountants' information source. They're very well qualified to certify, but probably even they don't seem to have channels to get information. So I would go back to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India to say, excuse me, would you please do something about telling your own members what are the sources of financial literacy? And also tell the RBI to write to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India to say, I'm doing it, would you please recognize me? So, sorry if it sounds a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'm worried for chartered accountants. So please, let us make sure that you are better informed, and I shall tell both the Institute and the RBI and the NSDC to get to writing to your institutions to say, please copy this and send to each one of your members, so that we fall back on chartered accountants to tell us A, B, C, D sources of financial education for us. There are also universities nowadays who are undertaking financial literacy course as part of their regular curriculum. So that can also help. Other than that, of course, there are specific issues which were largely related to taxation. I take your points. If there's anything that I can do in terms of going back and working out, I'll try to. But there was this one concern saying urban transport, investments are going away when they see our transport. We need to do something about it. Very genuine concern. What is the Bengaluru-Mysuru 6-laning? What is the outer ring road? What are the extra railways which are being provided even for urban circuit traveling? What is the metro? What are the immense flyovers? What is the super-fast trains which are coming in? So work is happening. I concede it's not enough, you need lots more. But if we have to catch up with, let's say, some decade which was lost in only corruption, and no fundamental work was done, we'll have to do the catching up all over the country. And if we feel this, and genuinely we feel it, I'm not blaming anybody. Just go see what it is in the Northeast, where rapid work on improving connectivity, infrastructure, digital, rail, road, airways, everything. Unbelievable work is happening, but even that's not sufficient, because nothing has happened except for saying you're very remote, and because you're so remote, people who go and invest there should be given some subsidy because there's no road reaching you, and if they place it there, even for their primary inputs from Kolkata to, let us say, Guwahati to Shillong to Impal to any other place, Kohima, will cost lots more, but because you're locating there, Government of India will give you the subsidy. But you didn't think that collection of subsidy could have made a better road. You know, we kept doing a lot of things to calm down in short term, but didn't think in terms of medium and long term. If only you brought them into the connectivity network of this country, you didn't have to give the subsidy and they would have been honorably doing their own job anyway. So I'm happy to say that the need for good urban infrastructure and rural infrastructure is being felt by each one of us. And that is what Prime Minister Modi is rushing with. Roads everywhere, rural housing, airports. Second World War airstrips are being improved, enhanced and brought into the Udan scheme, which may not be very glamorous port, but at least it will have some aircrafts coming, aircrafts going. You can get connected to the nearest big international airport. So it's all being done now. More needs to be done, we will do more. That's a different story. But today the residents of India, residents of any one area, I'm happy feel that. We need it. We need more, better connectivity. We wouldn't have dared ask the governments 10, 15 years ago saying, hey, at that time one road for a village would have been a big thing. But I'm glad we are improving, we are moving forward. So I don't know if I missed out on any one particular point other than the specific individual issues. But I'd certainly take this conversation of today very seriously, particularly on the resident welfare association grievances which are across the board. So thank you for giving me this opportunity and for this candid discussion. I thought I answered you. Part. But this point wasn't mentioned in your earlier question for me to have answered it.
Thank you, madam. Now, would like to invite the Honorable Government of Karnataka Minister of Health, Dr. Sudhakar ji, to deliver the presidential remarks.
I'm not delivering anything. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಹಳ್ಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮಾತು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಒಂದು ಮನೆ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ ಒಂದು ಮಹಿಳೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಆ ಮನೆಯ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಪ್ರಗತಿಯನ್ನು ಭಾಳ ಯಶಸ್ವಿಯಾಗಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ಇಂಥ ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ನಾರಿ ಶಕ್ತಿ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಕ್ರಿಯಾಶೀಲ ಸಮರ್ಥ ವಿತ್ತ ಸಚಿವರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ನಿರ್ಮಲಾ ಸೀತಾರಾಮನ್ ರವರು ಈ ದೇಶದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮನೆಗಳ, ಇಡೀ ದೇಶದ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯನ್ನು ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಸಮರ್ಥವಾಗಿ ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇವತ್ತು ಇಡೀ ವಿಶ್ವನೇ ಭಾರತದ ಕಡೆ ನೋಡುವಂಥ ಪ್ರಸಂಗವನ್ನು ಒದಗಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂಥ ಒಂದು ಧೀಮಂತ ವಿತ್ತ ಸಚಿವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಧ್ಯೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಸಲಹೆಗಳು, ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಅನುಮಾನಗಳು, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ವಸ್ತುನಿಷ್ಠ ಉತ್ತರಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾನು ವಿಶೇಷ ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. Pertaining to certain civic communities that was raised by RWA, I'm not the concerned minister, but however, I would definitely communicate, I would like to convey all your issues to our Honorable Chief Minister, who is holding the Bangalore development portfolio as well, along with urban development. Most of you have mentioned that there are some issues to seek certain kind of clearances, permissions with various stakeholders like PCB, BBMP, police, fire, and so on. So we believe, and Karnataka is one of the pioneer states in creating or in coming up with a single window clearance system for industries, online Bhumi portal, and in fact we are the most efficient state in bringing out the GST, delivering GST as was desired. So we were so much prepared. So that is why if you observe our GST collections, I think we are number 2 in the country today. And we should all be proud that this state, and especially Bangalore being the growth engine, which contributes at least more than 50% of our the total revenue coming only from Bangalore. Bangalore being the nation's startup capital, IT capital, and also research and development's capital. We have some more hats, and coming from a garden city, we want to preserve this brand Bangalore, and especially our government under the leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister Basaraj Bommai. We are very committed to ensure that this city is going to be an absolute safe city, beautiful city, and one should really be proud of this city. If you see, we have received the highest rainfall in the last 2 years compared to what we can compare for the 7-8 decades earlier. So that is exactly the reason why we could not immediately do the roads. But in the last 2 months, if you have observed, every neighborhood, every area has come out with a new roads. And today we don't see much potholes. I hope you all agree to this. And similarly, only one or two spoke about the topic that I handle, healthcare. As Indians, we should really be proud of the Ayushman Bharat health insurance assurance scheme. I haven't seen this kind of an insurance or assurance policy anywhere in the world. A person who is from below poverty line is assured of minimum of 5 lakhs in a year. And today, I would like to say this state with a 6.5 or 7 crore population, we have 1.1 crore families who are enrolled as BPL families. Though the government of India notifies that there are only 63 lakh families who can be under the bracket BPL. And apart from that, this is the only state where we pay 30% of the total cost incurred by APL families for their health related ailments and charges. So that is why we